Good morning. My name is Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and today we're getting an update from Rackla Metals, who trades on the TSX.V under the symbol RAK. Joining me is Rackla's Vice President of Exploration, Scott Casselman. Scott, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Megan.
So, Scott, before we jump into today's update, for those new to the Rackla story, could you introduce us to the company and your portfolio of projects along the Eastern Tombstone Belt?
Absolutely. Rackla Metals is a Vancouver-based junior exploration company. The company is focused its search for gold deposits in eastern Yukon and western Northwest Territories in northern Canada and what's known as the Tombstone Gold Belt, as you mentioned. The Tombstone Gold Belt is significant because it hosts a number of mines and deposits for a type of gold occurrence known as a reduced intrusion-related gold system, or RIRGS, often referred to as RIRGS. Significant mines like the Fort Knox mine in Alaska, which hosts 12 million ounces of gold, and the Eagle gold mine in Yukon, which hosts 7.8 million ounces, are examples of reduced intrusion-related gold system deposits within the belt. And there have been a number of new discoveries in the belt, such as Banyan Gold's Ormac property, Sitka Gold's RC Gold property, Victoria Gold's Raven discovery, and of course the Valley Gold occurrence of Snowline Gold Corp. So Rackla has 6 active projects in the belt at various stages of exploration. And from north to south, these are the Astro West and Astro East projects, which together we call the Astro Plutonic Complex. And then moving southwards from there, we've got the RAK Main and Joss properties that you can see here on this slide. And then further south off the view of the screen are our Black and Flat properties. And those 2 properties are located near the past producing Cantong tungsten mine.
And last year was Rackla's first year on this new project portfolio, where we saw the company cover a significant amount of ground throughout the Astro Plutonic Complex. You made your first RIRGS discovery at that hit target, but you also did some extensive work at the Kelvin Stock, 11 kilometers to the south. Could you walk us through that campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So HIT and Peak are both within the Astro Plutonic Complex, as I mentioned. They're both in the Yukon. Our campaign last year was quite extensive. We started with an airborne geophysical survey. We did lots of boots on the ground prospecting, stream sediment, soil sampling, lots of rock samples collected. And at HIT, we drilled 5 reconnaissance style drill holes for a total of just under 1,000 meters and made that significant reduced intrusion related gold system discovery there with good anomalous gold values and all of the features that you'd expect to get when you're looking for a reduced intrusion type gold system. So we were very excited about that. But we'll talk about the Kelvin Stock, which is located, so HIT is at the north. It's on a stock called Canal Trail. The Kelvin Stock is about 11 kilometers south of HIT. And our main discovery there is what we call Peak, which we see here on this slide. The work that we did there, similar to at HIT, we did an airborne geophysical survey. We did lots of stream sediment sampling, rock sampling, prospecting, mapping, and identified some very significant features. As you can see on this image, there's a few of the results from rock samples that we collected and the gold content there. 20% of our rock samples collected were greater than 1 gram per ton gold. So that's very significant numbers. And these reduced intrusion related gold systems typically have gold content in the 0.5 to 1 gram range. Sometimes it can be higher. Sometimes they can be lower, of course, too. And the green blobs that you see on this are soil geochemical anomalies that were identified from our soil sampling program. And that identified quite a sizable target at Peak, which measures about 1 kilometer by 1.5 kilometers. And then a little bit lesser advanced target at Cirque, which is located just to the west of Peak.
And you've collected an abundance of data at Kelvin Stock from the surface work. It looks like you've delineated a significant target at the Peak discovery for first phase drilling. Is this the type of signature you'd be looking for when exploring for these large reduced intrusion related gold systems?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of features that you look for. One is the chemistry of that is associated with the gold. So you're looking for an association of arsenic, tellurium, tungsten, with the gold mineralization, and we see that here, both at Peak and at Cirque. The other thing you look for is the structural preparation. And what happens there is as the intrusion comes up, it fractures and the gold mineralization comes into those fractures. So you look for a structure that's known as what's known as sheeted veining. So we see that in the intrusion and we see that in the sedimentary rocks, which are just off to the bottom right of this slide. Those lines are representation of that structural preparation, and that's where the gold mineralization is concentrating. And the other feature that's typical of the Tombstone Gold Belt is that the intrusions, all of the deposits that I mentioned previously and our two occurrences here, are hosted in a particular age of rock that's known as the Cretaceous age, and our intrusions are of that age as well.
And in this release, we also saw your geophysical results from the Kelvin Stock. Can you discuss the data and any geophysical characteristics that stand out?
Yeah. So as the name implies, reduced intrusions. It's a chemical connotation of what happens to these granite bodies when they are intruding. So they're reduced. So what that means is that the iron in the intrusion does not form the mineral magnetite, which would when you do geophysical survey over them, if there was magnetite, it would be a magnetic high feature. On this image here, we see the blue area, which is a magnetic low. So that's an indication of the reduced intrusion. And interestingly, so we get the low occurring throughout most of the Kelvin Stock, but interestingly, we see a lobe coming off to the east and another one to the south beyond where we've mapped the intrusive rocks and where we have on surface seen sedimentary rocks. So it indicates that this this intrusive body is occurring underneath the sediments at Peak. So where we were seeing all of those gold values in our surface samples at Peak, we believe that underlying that is the granite body. The important factor there, particularly as we go to the drill stage on this target this year, is that we're seeing the gold in the sediments that is probably being fed by the intrusion below. So as we drill these targets and we penetrate through the sediments and get into that intrusion, our expectation is that we'll see those sheeted veins in the intrusive rock, which is a prime place to look for reduced intrusion-related gold deposits.
And this year, the company will embark on your maiden drill program at the Kelvin Stock. For our listeners, can you quickly recap your initial targets on this property and what excites you about the potential here?
Yeah. So Peak is our primary target. We will, as we start drilling at Peak, we'll be building up the Cirque target over to the west. It had very little work done on it in 2023, but what work was done there, it looked really, really good. So we'll be developing Cirque with some more surface work, but Peak will be our primary focus, and we're excited to get in there as soon as we can with the drill. We're expecting that'll be roughly about mid-June. We've got our planning 5 holes for about 1,000 meters to start, and then once we see those results, we'll make plans for work beyond that. But the gold values that we're seeing there are really exciting for us, and we see all of the features that we would hope to see on a target like this for reduced intrusion-related gold model.
Once again, we want to thank you for your time today, Scott, and we look forward to having you back on for the next Rackla update.
Thank you very much, Megan.